Mike Owens and Inside Fighting here, and it's always a pleasure to be joined by Grant Dawson, who returns to action at UFC 311, facing Diego Ferreira. Grant, always a pleasure, my man. How are things with you today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I always enjoy being on your podcast.
Likewise, likewise. We were talking a little bit there off camera. I know that you're a man of faith, so I know Christmas is important to you, but I always feel sorry for the fighters who are booked on the early to mid-January cards. How much has your Christmas celebrations been impacted by this upcoming fight?
Yeah, I mean, for real, Christmas is pretty much the only holiday that I celebrate. I don't really care about my birthday or Halloween or Thanksgiving or any of those, but Christmas is the one that I really enjoy, like you said, for more for religious reasons than anything else. But it's fine. We did everything we needed to do, except I didn't get to eat like I normally get to eat. But that's okay, because outside of fight camp, I eat like it's Christmas every day. So I'm good with it, man. I'd rather not get to enjoy my Christmas because I have a fight than get to enjoy my Christmas because I don't have one.
How much smaller is the Christmas Day meal in comparison to what it would be outside of camp?
I mean, outside of fight camp on Christmas Day, here's the thing: is I love bread, I love
Okay.
dinner rolls, like that. So that's where the pounds come on. Is I'll have, like, I'm not joking, throughout the day, probably close to 20 to 30 dinner rolls on
Wow.
Christmas. I'm dead serious. My family, when I do visit, usually makes like a giant basket of rolls, and I eat more than half of them. So that's the what I had to pull back on. I think I actually did have three dinner rolls, but we fit it into the macros and everything was on point. So my weight's never been better. So super happy with how this is going so far.
Well, that's good to hear. And as I mentioned, a couple of weeks out from a massive fight against Carlos Diego Ferreira. First and foremost, because the last time we spoke, we were debating you should have I was saying that you should have a top 15 fight next, and you give me the reasons as to why that maybe wasn't possible or why that didn't make sense. So, your first reaction to the name Diego Ferreira when that was presented to you?
Yeah, I think Diego and I have been destined to fight each other. We've been scheduled to fight each other, I believe, three or four times now. I had to back out of a couple. He had to back out of a couple. You know, at least on my side, there's no bad blood. There's no, like, it's just another fight to me. I do think he's my toughest fight to date. I do think that he would beat, other than maybe Demir, I think he would beat just about everybody I've fought. And I'm training like it's the absolute toughest fight of my career. He's got a lot of experience. Man, in my mind, he's top 15 worthy. I think a big win over Diego puts me back into the top 15. And then, damn it, I want to fight somebody that keeps me in the top 15. I'm tired of in the top 15, out of the top 15, in the top 15. I hate that. Just either put me in or don't. Like, I'm ready to go, man.
Well, I do believe Joel Alvarez has took your top 15 spot after his last win, so we'll get onto that in a little while. But when you look at this matchup stylistically, where are you expecting to have success in the specific areas of the fight?
Yeah, man, he's super well rounded. He's super dangerous on the ground. Every time I fight another grappler, people ask me, "Is this going to turn into a striking match?" And I always say the same thing. This only turns into a striking match if he can keep me from taking him down. I'm going to be honest with you, like, he's good on the ground. I might not be able to hold him down. I might not be able to keep him down. We have prepared extensively for I can't hold this dude down. We've prepared extensively for what we're going to do if things on the ground are not going my way and I have to strike a little bit. I, I'm I've trained so hard for this fight. Like, if Diego beats me on January 18th, it will not be because of lack of preparation. It will be just because he's better than me. So I'm really excited for the challenge. I'm really excited for the problem solving. Like, let's get after it.
He's coming off a couple of really redemptive wins over Michael Johnson and most recently against Mateusz Rebecki, which ages like a fine wine when you look at Rebecki's Fight of the Year contender against Oralby back in October. Was there anything about his last win, that comeback victory, that changed your perspective or opinion on
Oh
Ferreira as an
yeah,
opponent?
I don't know if a lot of people know this. Is I train with Rembetsky.
Mm.
Like, I think very very highly of him. I think he's a very very good fighter. And for Diego to come back and not only win the fight but finish him, that's really impressive. I definitely what's the word? I'm definitely think that that's a bigger win than people are giving him credit for,
Mm.
and I do think that a couple years down the line, they're going to be like, oh wow, Rembetsky's really good. That's a big win for Diego. So, and to be honest with you, man, that's the best he's ever looked. He was 39 years old, and that's the best he's ever
Yeah.
looked in a fight. So, I'm expecting nothing but the best. I think that he's mentally strong, physically strong. I don't think his age is going to slow him down one bit. I'm prepared for the best Diego Ferreira.
I know that you're obviously not looking past your next opponent in a couple of weeks' time, but three fight winning streak, I think that would be 10 of your last 11 wins if memory serves. Do you feel like this fight progresses you back into not only into the top 15, but also into another fight, another ranked matchup?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I would assume they would. Assuming I beat Diego on January 18th, my UFC record will be 11-1. Name an 11-1 UFC fighter that is not in the top 15. Like I've got the best record outside the top 15. I'm 22-2, 11 and assuming I beat Diego, I'll be 11-1 in the UFC. Like it's time. It's time to give me that big name. It's time to give me, assuming a good win over Diego, it's time to give me somebody in the top 10 that is going to keep me in the top 10.
What constitutes a good win on January 18th, and do you feel like a finish is more important to getting you into that top 15 position
Yeah,
again?
I'm not really thinking about that.
Mm.
For me, I just want to win. I know how tough Diego is. I definitely don't think the odds are doing him any justice.
Mm.
But I've said that before. Um, yeah, if I can, hopefully I knock him out in the first 10 seconds, but I doubt that's going to happen. For me, going in and getting my hand raised, whether it's split decision or or finished, whatever it is, getting my hand raised, I'll be happy because I know how tough Diego is.
We've talked about this before about how the lightweight division should probably extend in the rankings past 15 because there's too many good guys in the 16 to probably 25 range who would deserve a ranking in other divisions given what they've done. Respectfully, why do you feel like you've been the guy who's been yo-yoing in and out of the top 15 and you've been the guy kind of, to use a, for lack of a better phrase, on the chopping block of that number 15 ranking?
I think it's because they know I'm not gonna like. I'm not a what's the word? I'm not superstar. Like I'm not a loudmouth. I'm not. I definitely think there are people that do not belong in the top 10, top 15, let alone top 10. If you look at somebody like Michael Chandler, he's 2-4 in the UFC. So you put his record up against my record, 11-1 in the UFC. Again, assuming I beat Diego, 11-1 in the UFC compared to 2-4 in the UFC. And you say, yeah, the 11-1 guy, not ranked, the 2-4 guy ranked in the top 10, top seven. Like it doesn't make any sense. And then you got these guys that they're just they're not looking to fight the up and comers. You know what I mean? Like they need to take Michael Chandler out of there. They need to take if Benil Dariush loses, he said that he's probably going to be done if he loses. As soon as that fight is over, assuming he loses, get him out of there. Like don't wait around for these guys. If you say you're done, if you say anything other than I want to be a world champion, I think you need to get out of the rankings, man.
You mentioned Michael Chandler there, and there is a lot of rumors about the Paddy Pimblett fight between Michael Chandler. What is your early read on that fight? Because I think that's a very interesting way for the UFC to go for both parties.
Well, it makes sense because Patty is a superstar, and Michael Chandler is on that fence of like he's a superstar, a superstar. He's very entertaining, and he hasn't lost to anybody that isn't world class. So you can still argue that he's at the top of the division. This is that fight though. Like if it's a win-win situation. If Chandler wins, they can be like, "See, this is why we kept him so high
Mm.
up there." And if Patty wins, which I do think Patty will win, now you're like, "Okay, see, Patty's ready for." I don't even know who you put him in there against. Depending on how he wins, maybe like a Charles Oliveira. Two really good grapplers there. But it's a win-win situation for the UFC and for the rankings. But in my opinion, I think Patty's going to beat him, and then I think they need to just get him out of there.
I imagine there must be a good buzz in the ATT room at the moment with yourself, Arman Tsarukyan, and Renato Moicano all preparing for the fights on this big card. I'm not sure if you've Are you training with Arman or Renato? But what is the training room like at the moment? And have you spent any time in the on the mat with either?
Yeah, I've trained with both a bunch. I train with Moicano a little bit more than I train with Arman, but that's just because Moicano's there year round. But
Mm,
yeah, I've helped Arman get ready for this fight. We haven't done any sparring rounds this camp just because he's not similar to my opponent, and I
mm,
don't want to stand southpaw, through my whole camp because
mm.
that's not what I'm gonna do. Um, but we've grappled a bunch, we've drilled together. Like he's ready, man. And honestly, right now, I think he's got the best chance of beating Islam Makhachev right now. And I'm really excited to see both these guys fight. But I'm focused on my fight. I love both these guys. I pray that they win. But if they go 0-2 and I win, I'll still be a happy man.
I was going to ask about that because we often hear this thing about like there's an extra buzz in the gym, but MMA is a selfish sport where you win or you lose. So is there such a thing as that? Does there feel anything else going on in the gym? And I say that with the conscious of the size of your gym and that there's so many fights week over week. It must feel like there's always somebody preparing. But do you feel any extra buzz as you go into UFC 311?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's any extra buzz. I definitely think that I think a lot of people are excited for this card, so that's nice.
Mm,
And the nice thing is I get to go first.
yes.
I'll be back in the hotel room eating pizza with my wife before Moicano even
Mm,
steps into the cage. So I'll get to watch that. There'll be no nerves for me on who goes first. And neither of these guys are so mentally tough. I'm so mentally tough. Like just God forbid I lose against Diego, it's not going to mess with them. They don't
mm.
care. Like they're not going to lose any sleep over my problems. So I'm the same way. If I was the main event and Arman and Moicano both lost, I'm not losing any sleep, man. I'm in this for me. And I wish them the best. They're my friends and my training partners, and I will help them as much as possible. But I'm in this for me.
I know you've been through a similar experience with the fight at UFC 302, but is there any extra of a motivator fighting on the undercard when the lightweight title is on the line, when there's something that you covet will be fought for later on in that night? Is that any extra motivator at all?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a motivator, but I
Okay.
do think that it's nice to kind of see. Like, so I was a part of I fought on the same card as Dustin when he
Mm,
fought Islam, and it was nice to kind of be in that championship camp, and see kind of what guys do to prepare to win the belt. And now I got to do it again with Arman. I get to kind of see like these guys aren't doing anything special. They're
mm,
not. They don't have a an extra day of the week. They don't have, they're not running the extra mile. Like they're doing what I'm doing.
mm.
It's all about consistency. And I've always believed that I'm going to train just as hard for Diego as I'm going to train for Armand. So, it's cool to see. I'll definitely be excited. And I do plan on making championship weight just in case, nothing is wrong with Armand at all, but you
Mm,
never know. He might step on a cord and blow his ACL. You never know. So
yeah.
I do plan on making championship weight just in case. But you know, it is what it is. I'm focused on myself.
Take Arman out of it for just a second because we have a very dominant champion in your weight class at the moment in Islam Makhachev. Take Styles out of this when I ask this next question, or even your style specifically. But when you look at Islam as a potential, let's say, a future opponent, what would you feel like the keys that someone would need to implement into a game plan to defeat a style like that?
I think the biggest thing is not letting him move you backwards. Which is way easier said than done. The biggest flaw that I think Islam Makhachev has is I think his weight cut is too big. I think he cuts too much weight. I don't think he cuts weight the proper way. And, he's still amazing, but I think that if you get in his face and you start attacking the body and the difference between me and everybody else in the division is if I get on top of Islam for a second, I can finish the round on top. If he gets taken down one time, I've banked that round. I've put in the hooks. I throw in the body triangle. I'm trying to choke him for the entire round. Now he's down 1-0. So I definitely think the biggest thing is staying off the cage and being able to wrestle with him and being able to wrestle first. I always thought that would have been the best way to beat Khabib is wrestle first. When we watched Khabib fight, I believe it was Abel Trujillo. I think that's who it was. Took
Yes.
him down pretty easily, and he was kind of known for being a boxer, and shot in, took him down. Gleison Tebow, did really well against Khabib, shot in, took him down first. I think there's ways to beat these guys by going first. And
Yeah.
I think we saw that with Arman versus Islam in their first fight. It's just Arman doesn't have the control that I have. He's probably got a little bit better takedowns than I do, but he doesn't have the control that I
Mm.
have.
Almost working to the principle of fighting wrestling fire, but wrestling fire, if you will.
I definitely agree. And
Mm.
I think that's the way to do it, especially a guy like me. I don't have a whole lot of knockouts. I'm not like a power puncher. I'm probably not gonna starch Islam on the feet. It's gonna be either a submission or a 25-minute fight.
Mm. Well, turning the conversation back to your upcoming fight, I think I've asked you this one a few times, so you might know what's coming here, but give me a walkthrough of what the perfect fight day on January 18th looks like. When you visualize from morning to night, how do you see the perfect day playing out?
Yeah, I think I try to sleep in as much as possible. I'm fighting pretty early on the card, so I imagine that I will be uh I'll be up quick. Um, get in there and just do my thing, man. The biggest thing that I've learned, I think the biggest thing that I can take from my experience is I have no clue how I'm gonna feel on that day, and that's okay. When I fought Demir, nobody was beating me that night. I was so confident. I wasn't nervous in the slightest. And I was like, dude, I've got this figured out. Like, and then I fought Bobby and I felt the same, really good, and I got knocked out. Then my next fight, I was super nervous. And then my next fight, it's going to be different every time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. The same Grant Dawson is going to show up. I'm too competitive. I want to win too much. Doesn't matter how I feel. I'm going to show up and fight.
I love it. Well, Grant, it's always a pleasure catching up. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great and safe rest of camp, and best of luck for the next fight.
I appreciate it, man. Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year to you too.